Shall we begin? Let's begin now.
Hey friends, I am Neethi the Pharmacist, here with my co-hosts Janae Williams and Valerie Cruz, and we are on full. Welcome to Our View. Hello.
Hey everyone. Today we're so excited. We have with us Dr. Greg Barnes, who is a fully certified Max Living chiropractor. His mission is to lead families into the highest level of health. And he has his office called Greenway Chiropractic in Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you've seen some of our other episodes, you will probably know that there's this chiropractor that we keep talking about and referring to. Well, that would be Dr. Greg Barnes, near and dear to our heart. So we're really excited to have you today on our show.
Yay.
Thank you for joining us.
Yay.
Yay.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Wow, this feels so official.
So we've been having this ongoing conversation, Doc, where we are talking about the browning of the earth and, regenerative lifestyles, how a regenerative lifestyle can support reversing the browning of the earth. Because if we all don't start taking action right now in making some type of lifestyle change, it's not just something that's going to benefit one of us or just us. We have to take a look at this problem from a holistic perspective. If we're not looking at these things from a whole, then, it just doesn't work. So my first question for you is, currently we have society kind of villainizing livestock. And as a physician who is teaching everyone how to use food as medicine, and you're making sure that everyone in your practice is balanced holistically, then what are your thoughts about that? Is it possible for someone to gain health without livestock?
Yeah, it's so interesting that we kind of talk about this, because just this week in my office, I had this very conversation with some really sick individuals. Really, there's a lot of hype and a lot of marketing right now, and many documentaries and just sort of these extremely biased agendas that are being put out there with, for the average consumer to watch this, they're going to easily buy into it, because like you're saying, they are villainizing meat and as you say, livestock. But the problem is that meat and livestock have been really at the center of every single cultural group, ethnic group, tribe, nation, whatever you want to call or categorize with that, since the beginning of time. There's documentation back, as long as we could possibly know, is that knowing that animals were raised, they were consumed, and they were central to the food chain. And really, like in many cases too, especially even going back to like the first settlers here in America. I remember like reading just kind of statements about like the fact, like during the wintertime, a lot of times they would bring the cow like inside the house with the family because it would keep everybody warm. It's like they were all in it together. It was like a team effort to stay alive in harsh conditions. So in my opinion, we were meant to eat meat, and unfortunately, I think if you don't, just what we know scientifically now is that you're missing out on vital nutrients, amino acids, that you can't get anywhere else, and even and you know obviously certain types of fats too without consuming you know with meat. So yeah, I think it's impossible to be healthy as an individual without consuming you know at least a certain portion of meat every single day.
But isn't it true that when you go on no meat eating habit, you do lose weight and you do, I guess, feel better?
Well, so here's my perception of that. Usually, people that, you know, like a common popular one that a lot of people did, especially a lot of churches do, is something called the Daniel fast,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is kind of like a no meat, you know, diet. And I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the Daniel fast, but what I find is that a lot of people, when they do like this kind of, they would call that like a shift or like a diet. Well, what usually goes along with it is they also stop eating potato chips, McDonald's, and all the meat that
That's
they were
right.
eating was like processed fast food meat. So, sure, if you go from a Chick-fil-A, Subway, you know, McDonald's, Hardee's, you know, Arby's diet, and then you go to like, well, what's left? You know, fruits and vegetables. Like, yeah, like I mean, I think most people are going to lose weight if you do that too. So the answer is yes, but that's like, you know, what you're saying. Like, that's a perfect example of how like okay well that may be true but that's not the full truth behind that story, you know, like so yeah I mean you go off you go off you know anybody goes off that they're gonna lose weight.
And it's temporary, right? Like, okay, so I always tell everyone, I'm like, if you're not going to do anything else, you know, and you want to try to gain health, then how about you just don't eat wheat?
Yeah.
And, you know, you don't even have to understand or believe anything about whether it should just be like, you know, I don't know, all these different paleo, vegan, whatever you want to call it, different diets. Instead of arguing about all of that, what if you just didn't eat wheat? And I'm not
Yeah.
even saying don't eat grain. I'm saying just don't eat wheat. Because
Yep.
interestingly, wheat is in everything and soy sauce and in whatever. So if
Yep.
you're really trying to avoid wheat, the same thing happens like what you just said. Like, you know, all of a sudden they can't eat at a restaurant. They can't eat in a lot of places because wheat is everywhere. But they can make something at home and they start cooking.
Yeah.
Miracles happen because they start cooking food. And so you don't even actually have to go on a Daniel diet or whatever. I mean, but people, I think it's interesting. You do one of those things and they all of a sudden they can't have fast food. They can't
Yeah, I mean,
have-
the scientific reference for that is what's known as correlation does not equal causation. So, you know, it might be common that all people that, you know, reduce meat or go off meat will lose some weight, but that doesn't mean that that's the specific cause of why it's happening. And of course, too, you know, and I'm sure your listeners and your viewers are going to become, you know, are educated on this. Some will become even more educated on this too. But it's like, well, when you look at the China study and all these documentaries that are coming out talking about the damaging effects of meat. Those are quotes, by the way. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. You know, the damaging effects of meat. You know, we're talking about like there's no classification or there's no specification of well, what does that mean as far as the meats? Because I mean, to my knowledge, there's never been a study that's shown okay, well, let's put a group of 1,000 people eating, you know, the type of livestock that you know you ladies talk about, and then well, let's just take some stuff off the shelf at Food Line and put people on that, and show me what the different health outcomes would be.
Exactly.
You know, outcomes from that. So
Exactly.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sure, you put people that are eating just terrible, you know, red meat and you know chicken, like yeah, like they're not, you know, I could see many disease processes forming in their bodies because of those choices, but it doesn't mean it's the meat's fault, you know, like that cow didn't get to choose what it ate, right? So it's not its fault that it made you sick if you know were eating, you know, a McDonald's hamburger every single day, right? And I know I keep throwing
Amazing.
terms out, but I'm using the McDonald's hamburger so people know like very specifically what I'm talking about. Poor quality, you know, not naturally raised.
I mean, let's just
you know.
be honest, though. Angus Barn or some of these other high-end restaurants, their beef is the same. I mean,
Right,
well,
yeah.
okay, maybe they don't have pink slime. I'll give
Right.
them that much. Like, you know, they've got like great, like actual
It was
probably
cooked in an
meat.
expensive kitchen, you know.
Yeah, it is a
Right.
very expensive. They have a
Yeah.
kitchen. How about why
Yeah,
don't we
have
just say
kitchen,
they
yeah.
have a kitchen?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these, even it's. I think people will be surprised to know that if they go to many of the restaurants that they go to, they actually don't even have a kitchen in the back. I mean, if you ask someone to maybe use butter instead of canola oil to make something because you're out with friends and you want a cleaner option, to try to adjust what
Yeah.
it is that you're having, you'll be surprised to find out they don't have a kitchen and they don't have any way to do that because they're like microwaving your food in the back or steaming it or something of that nature.
Yeah, what
So-
I think is really interesting, and I'll finish this point, and then if you want to move on to the next question, whatever. But when meat gets villainized, to my knowledge, the only like major study that I'm aware of that's ever been done on grass-fed beef, and when I say grass-fed beef, I can't, because I don't know enough of the specific details of the study, so I can't, it's probably not even as strict of guidelines that we would talk about that are important. But let's just say grass-fed beef versus grain-fed beef, and when they looked at the fatty acid ratios, this was done out of the University of North Dakota State University back in like the early 2000s, I think. And when they looked at the fatty acid ratios of omega-6 to omega-3, they found that, so in grain-fed beef, just as a reference point, usually the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 will be somewhere between 20 to 24 to 1. Where when they looked at the ratios of grass-fed beef, it ranged anywhere from 2 to 4 to 1. So, either 2 to 1 or 4 to 1. And what's really interesting, what we now know about science as far as having the optimal fatty acid ratios in human blood, actually found that it needs to be the exact same ratio, so 4 to 1 or 2 to 1. There's kind of some studies that different there's a little bit of discrepancy, like which one or the other, but 2 to 1, 4 to 1, whatever. Let's just call it 3. And so what's really interesting in that is that if an animal is fed, specifically cows, right, are fed exactly what their diet intended to be, it is the exact perfect fatty acid ratio balance that what the human body needs. I don't know. I can't call that a coincidence, right?
No.
And what's interesting then is that most Americans, when we do this testing in our clinic too, their ratios of omega-6 to omega-1 usually are around 20 to 1. So almost the exact ratio of what a grain-fed cattle you'd find, like the beef in that. So we can seriously say in this scenario, you are what you eat, or you become what you eat in that sense. And I just can't call that a coincidence. Like that's just silly to try to call that a coincidence, but pretty cool at the same time. So hopefully this movement that you guys are, honestly, I would say spearheading. I mean, there's at least at the forefront of it, people can start waking up and realizing that we need money to do more and more of these studies and actually look at health outcomes of the exact, when people are fed a regenerative lifestyle, eating plan, okay, for lack of a better term, and even comparing that to, let's say, like a whole foods eating plan, or like just eating a kind of a whole foods diet. And without knowing, but I'm not a betting man, but that's something I could easily bet on and put money on saying, like, the people that ate the regenerative lifestyle would even be healthier than people that were on a whole foods diet, or just an organic diet, or just a grass-fed beef store-bought diet, hands down.
So what do you see in your patients, because there's many of us that are in your practice?
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference in the ones of us that are on the regenerative diet versus not? I mean, you're the expert on that. You're watching it.
Yeah. I mean, without question. And I deal a lot with people that are in transition. So, what's interesting is that when people, make a switch from just doing the standard American diet to then, let's say, organic, I mean, that just right, that makes a big jump, right?
Of course.
For people, I mean, a massive jump. And then, when they take that another layer, like, let's say then they get their meat on point fully, like that's another big jump.
Sure.
But
Even
I'll say this.
eliminating some things, like
Well, no,
even
yeah.
going organic and eliminating things based on what we know, to be dangerous, or, like focusing on cooking, even if it's from the store, is different than just,
For sure.
cans,
Well,
boxes.
and I think in the short run, it might be a little bit hard to tell some of the judgment because there's so many factors there. But
Sure.
again, like we're going to be the ones that are around consistently at 90, 100, 110, 120 years old because of those, the high, I mean, like that extra level of way that we are living, not just living a natural, healthy lifestyle. I'm using quotes a lot.
Well, the investment, that we all choose to make is, all of us aren't perfect either. And we're all also healing. So it's not like it's that easy to just say, oh, well, they're thriving more because of just this one thing, because we already know
Right.
it's the whole.
Right.
We keep going back to the fact that if we're not viewing it from the whole body, the whole, balance, even with those of us with families, then it's the whole family. It's difficult because we're all impacting each other, or struggling because one person in the house won't stop buying potato chips or something.
Well, and no, you're right. And like you were saying, long term is really going to be the telltale. But like
Yes.
I would totally, like, for me I'm 33 now, and this year has been like a kind of a significant milestone for me, because I have now, at 33, I have now been getting adjusted, chiropractic adjustments, longer than I went in my life not getting adjusted. Okay, so like, but I still went the first 16 years of my life getting, 0 adjustments. And, when I hit like around age 44, well, then that'll be the point when I have now been living and eating a healthy diet, like, more years than I had not been eating a healthy diet.
Yeah.
But then it's still going to be like not until I'm the age of like, whatever, like in my 50s, when I'll have been eating the highest quality of meat, like from, that you provide, Neethi, as not. So, I'd like to think that, like, 1 year of healthy living might cancel out 10 years of bad living. That's probably not realistic, but
I don't know. You know
like-
what, Doc? Like I think that you, and please explain this to us. This would be interesting. Is on a cellular level, then how quickly, because somebody said to me, one gentleman was arguing with me that he didn't think the food was that big of a deal. And then I have heard medical physicians, which I find this incredibly irresponsible, saying that food can't be medicine. Impossible, because it can be poison. So please, what are your thoughts on that on a cellular level, and knowing how quickly our cells regenerate in the body, and us obviously there's going to be bioaccumulation, and obviously you can go down that rabbit hole, but please tell us how quickly, because I've seen people improve their health in 7 days. If I put them on protocol with real food, then I can see a lot of improvement in only 7 days. So, and I've even seen that, and obviously it's even written in Wheat Belly that if you stop eating wheat, he tells you to do a 7-day test of just eliminating it for 7 days. So please, I think all the listeners would love to know what you know about cellular healing.
Well, ultimately we are only as healthy as our cells are. And you're right. Within 1 year, scientists found that within, roughly 360, 5+ days, every single cell in your body has been replaced with a new one. Literally every single cell.
Wow.
So you
said 365 days?
Yeah, it's like right around a year. I don't remember the exact number, but usually they just round it down up to a year with that. And so technically, based on that, theoretically you have could be do a complete flip-flop in your health in a year, because you'd have the ability to nourish new cells, change your DNA, have your DNA making expressing all the health factors instead of disease factors within a year's time. So for me, I just like to I like to scrutinize myself, not in a negative way, but in a positive way. I'm like, like I'm gonna live pessimistically, and I'm gonna be like, all right, I want to live hardcore enough, and just tell myself, you know what, I can't take the foot off the gas now just because I am healthy and I feel good. Like for me, it's like, okay, because I drank a ton of Mountain Dew in my teenage years, like that's why I'm still going to make sure that I'm not doing these other things, right? So like,
Sure.
I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it like, okay, how can I just be critical of myself to make sure I continually to take it up, taking up a notch on that. But when it comes to like, people arguing with you about food can't be medicine, and I mean, doctors, I mean, lay people, I mean, it's a little bit hard because it's like, okay, where are they coming from? Do they just have a deeply rooted emotional issue that, like they can't just, get over? With physicians that say that, I don't know. It's like, am I going to go academic with you on this? Like, because it's not even on the same level, or could we just go
academic?
Yes,
go
go
academic. Because
Well,
it makes me so, I find it very irresponsible. And they say that to people who are, having their lives threatened right now. For example, I have someone who is having a threat of surgery. So she's trying really hard to get around that. And we're working on nutrition. I'm telling her, I really want her to come to see you, but that's also something else. But physicians have told her impossible that she can turn it around unless she has surgery. And I said, I actually took a line from you where I said to them, like, did you just think that you just accidentally have this body part that they just want to cut out because it was just an extra, it was just a mistake or something?
It's challenging because it's almost like we all are responsible to ask questions. We have to ask questions. People are used to just taking that expert's word. I actually, my brother, he was dealing with the VA, which is a special animal in and of itself. Yeah. And he went in there really sick, and they never took any blood. They didn't take any tests. They didn't do anything. They sent him away. And I said, why did you leave? Because he told me, I even though I did have some questions and I asked him, he said, you're fine, but you didn't feel fine. So why didn't you? It's like, he said, this is the doctor they're supposed to know. And I really, truly believe that most people are kind of stuck in that. And the doctors, yes, it's not that we're saying that we don't believe in them, but we're partnering with them. We have to take responsibility for our own health and ask questions. And like you said, go academic.
Yeah.
We have to. Like, I feel a very, a strong conviction about that. I have to go academic. I have learned that once I go academic, then they realize, oh, I think she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah,
and now
so we'd
I
love
will
to
take
get.
closer
I
attention.
have a different perspective on that, which is why I think Dr. Burns is torn. Because why do we need all the studies? Why do we need all the proof? Why do we need all this words when we have people who have done it? We have testimony after testimony. We have, I'm sure you have patient after patient, and I myself have gone through a journey. All three of us have gone through a journey. Yeah. So why do we need the academics? To me, that wastes precious time that you can use for something else.
And if
It's
you're not
the distraction,
studying
but
deeply,
it's the social engineering that we were talking about from the beginning, that we're trying to wake people up, Doc. We want a vocabulary from you that can help them. This is what the show is about. We are trying to help create a vocabulary for people so that they, I was talking with another person who, when she started asking the questions, taking the responsibility, then this physician threw his arms up at her and said, you're supposed to just do what I say, basically. I mean, I find it completely irresponsible. I mean, we're talking about bullying now from the physician to, and he's basically saying, like, how dare you? And I'm like thinking, how dare you? You know, how irresponsible of you not to. First of all, can you not answer my question? I'm confused.
Yeah.
You can't answer the question, so you're throwing your hands up at me. And I don't know that I've ever asked you a question as a physician. You're our physician. I've asked you a lot of hard questions. If you don't know something, you've even said, I'm really not sure about that or whatever. I can respect that more than for someone to throw their hands up at me. How about research it with me? We could both Google it together.
Right.
So for me on the academic thing, here's what I find. A lot of doctors are, they're just grossly uneducated on that. I mean, honestly, like the reason why I can rarely go academic with them, not because I can't, but I don't, because it's like, honestly, talking to, like, if it's not like on what drug do I prescribe in this scenario, it's like talking to, like, it's the same, like, it's like having a conversation with my 3-year-old. I'll ask Nora, like, why did you do that? And she's like, because I did. Like, there's no like thought process and like explanation that I can do to like pull reasoning out of her, or like, well, the reason why you shouldn't do that is this. It's just like, it's just because I did. That's why. So now on an individual, so I don't believe that is that all that. I haven't had much success with that on an individual level. Now the academics are needed on a macrocosm, because the medical system's gold standard are randomized, controlled, double blind clinical trials, and they don't change anything unless those are in place. So that's needed to like shift the system, is what those are needed for. But as far as like getting individuals to wake up, I tend to agree more with what Ms. Valerie said about just, like, if you can't believe like this mountain of proof that you can talk to, see with your very own eyes, and touch and interact with, like
you're not allowed to feel. I mean, you're not allowed to do that, Doc. I mean, like, that's what we also were saying, right? We said your innate instincts have been, like stolen from us or something. Right. And like, people aren't using any type of common sense anymore. So I hope that with this show, we can also help create that independence, that confidence, that, why aren't you feeling confident that you should, I mean, like with this scenario with the physician throwing the hands up, I mean, that's just rude.
Yeah.
It's just not, I mean, it's unprofessional, but it's rude. It's just not common courtesy. Like, I would feel that physician had no respect for me as a human being. And I wouldn't want to work with them just based on that alone. And I find that a lot of people feel bullied into, cutting themselves open, throwing away body parts or whatever, which are big, big deals. I mean, can you please tell us from your practice, the experience that you have? I know that there are people in your practice that have had body parts cut out that you're trying to help recover. And, I think it's amazing, that nature has so much grace, and that our bodies are able to even recover or function or fight for our lives, even when someone's cut something out. But why don't you talk about that? Because you've seen those miracles and you're working with a lot of those people too.
Well, if you want proof at how amazing the human body is, take the fact that even in, our city here in Raleigh, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people that haven't had a vegetable in years, and they're still alive.
Yes.
Right. Or there are kids that have like never had a vegetable, and they're not like brain dead.
Wow.
Right.
It is amazing.
I mean, really, like that. Whenever I have like doubts of how amazing the human body is, I look at how insanely amazing things it can do, with very little. I mean, or in some cases, like nothing. And I mean, all the time, you can still see cases of kids and people doing amazing things. And honestly, what I think about it, I always think about like watching it, like, and I'm blown away. But I'm like, man, how much more amazing would they be if they were unvaccinated, they were adjusted, they were eating the foods that we know are to be good. Like, I mean, we take that and multiply it by 10, right?
Amazing.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't get out very much. And so, like when I do, it's pretty earth shattering, like, you know, to be around like other kids, like, you know, my daughter's age and, or a little bit older. I mean, I remember being at a party, and like, you know, my daughter was sitting at the kids' table, and, you know, like she was eating the salad, and, you know, there's like this 5 or 6 year old, you know, next to her, not. And like the mom of this other child was like looking at her like, oh, like she's eating a salad. And then she literally, she said this, and I don't think she like realized that she said it, but she's like, and I forget his name, but he's like, I don't think Johnny has ever had a salad. And I'm like, the kid's 5 years old. He's never had lettuce before, you know, and that's not even the most nutrient dense food, right? But it's like, he hasn't even had a stinking salad like ever in his life.
It's sad.
Yeah, it's literally sad.
Dead. He's literally not dead, right?
Sad.
Like it's just.
That's right.
So,
I mean, I had to meet you 41 years later. 40, maybe it was 40 years later. I met you. You were the one that shook me from my state. You know, we talk about being awake. We all need to wake up, right? Because, you know, we were talking about the movements and the different, you know, taking one thing and changing it. I had a whole lifetime of doing that, thinking I was doing the right thing, you know? And then I meet you and you wake me up from being in a sad situation. And I was trying my best, you know? And I really do respect the fact that you help people in a gradual way, because I don't know if I could have taken on regenerative at the time that I met you. But I certainly did start understanding the quality of foods and nutrients and being able to nourish myself, you know? So it's like, I really hear you when you're saying, you know, it's better, you know, if they're coming from McDonald's and then they make that change to just stop doing fast food and soda, you know, and then you kind of slowly, gradually take things away by helping them with their big why. That's an important thing. If it's just about getting skinny, it's not going to do it. You know, I've been on a Daniel fast, they may say, and I feel great. Okay. Let's see how, you know, where this ends up, because you're going to need to really understand the importance of what you're doing to stick with it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, Dr. Burns, because you attack the individual, the community, and the global levels so brilliantly. What's your strategy in doing that?
Well, you know, I'd like to think that I'm special, but I do wake up and put my pants on the same way as anybody else, you know, one leg at a time. But, you know, I do it with a purpose, and I live by the motto, you know, like if it's to be, it's up to me. Like, you know, like I'm not going to wait for Duke to get their act together with their resources and be like, oh, we're going to now fix all this. I'm like, well, I'm not going to wait for that. You know, like there's too many people dying in the meantime, and too many people that can't wait for the world to wake up. So, I mean, it's just a mission, I guess. That, I mean, I don't, a strategy, like, I guess my strategy is to just always keep, my number one strategy is probably just to always keep reminding myself why, like you just talked about, Janae, why I do what I do. You know, it's for the kids that, you know, come to my office where their parents, like, they're so sensory just messed up that, like, they don't know what to do. They don't eat, they don't talk. I just met with a mother of an autistic child, and she actually found me on Facebook, and just, anyway, she's like, she's never heard her child say anything, let alone I love you, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I can't even imagine what that would be like to not hear your kid talk because they're vaccine damaged and just so nutrient deprived and so subluxated, much less like not hear like your kid saying, you know, hey, I love you, Dad, or I love you, Daddy. You know, like I can't imagine what my life would be like if Nora never said that, you know, on a regular basis. We're doing it for the single mom who's so just stressed out and fatigued and, you know, trying to make ends meet, and just, you know, her health's falling apart because she's trying to put her kids first, which is very noble, but she doesn't have the knowledge or the resources, or really like the self-value to realize like if I don't take care of myself, if the ship goes down, if the captain goes down with the ship, everybody dies, right, in this
That's
household.
right. Yep.
You know, and it's for the people that also, it's the people that think that they're walking around fine. I'm doing great. I'm doing okay. No, I shop at Whole Foods, or no, I have a membership at Lifetime Fitness. And because they think, the people that actually think that they're okay are the ones that scare me the most, because they're the ones that are going to be unwilling to make changes, right? And they're the ones that drop dead of a heart attack all of a sudden out of nowhere, and everybody around them says, that doesn't make any sense. Like, Joe was, you know, he worked out at the gym. He shopped at Whole Foods. He never took a sick day, whatever it is. And it's, well, Joe was missing something. And because Joe just assumed he was okay, like he didn't take the amount of action that he needed to take. So, you know, I think it's always about, and I think a lot of people that are watching this too, I'm going to make an assumption that they probably think they've made it to a certain level with their health. And that's dangerous. I mean, I'm always looking for the next way to improve, you know, my health. We just got a whole house water filtration system installed in our house here the other day. And I'm like, you know, I've been meaning to do that for a while, but I'm like, dang, you know, I was drinking out of a lot of like plastic water bottles because I didn't have, well, seriously, because I didn't have a lot of clean water. But it's like, well, now, great, I can be now 100% plastic free, because I should have no excuses anymore of having clean water around me all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all of those things.
Stopping. I mean, I'm right on, you know, right now my laptop's sitting on a you know, EMF shielding, you know, thing. So I'm not, you know, blasting my body with the radiation that's giving off of, you know, and I have low level, you know, amber lights in my house. So if I need to have a night light on, it's not, you know, jacking up my circadian rhythms if I have to wake up to use the bathroom, you know. So like, there's always like another level. And, you know, I think the most dangerous thing to think is like, well, I got this health thing figured out. So you know, now it's smooth sailing from here. I'm like, you know, so that's the shift, is always, how can I get better? How can I get healthier? What's the next best thing I can do for myself and my family? You know, what do we either need to add in or eliminate or whatever it is? And if you don't know the answer, well, then I would suggest you keep tuning in. You know, if you're people that are watching, keep tuning into this show and others like it, and, you know, never stop learning.
Doc, is there something that you notice about people that are ready? Like, I know it's easier to go on the other side and see signs of when they're not, but I know for the three of us, we came to your door ready.
Yeah.
You know, was there? Do you know those signs? Could you tell us what those would be?
Well, off the top of my head, I mean, I would say, like, just what I talked about, it's humbleness. It's like, you know, like, I want to be healthier, but I don't really know what to do and I need help. So humbleness in admitting that. A lot of times the people have tried multiple different things and maybe had some success or didn't, but like the fact is, like, they're in search mode. So they're like, well, I tried the paleo diet, I tried the ketogenic, you know, they're trying all these things, right? And, you know, they might have gotten some results, but they're kind of keep looking. A lot of times, unfortunately, it's tragedy. It's personal tragedy of some kind, whether it's for themselves, you know, or somebody around them. I mean, one of my most recent patients who lost 40 pounds and, you know, just had a lot of, you know, she just got like a lot of great changes. She's no longer a diabetic and all these amazing things. And, you know, she just said that she's like, I woke up one morning and I realized if I don't make a change, my husband is going to be taking care of me too soon. Like he's going to have to become my caretaker. And so it wasn't like the tragedy didn't fully hit, but like she saw the tragedy was coming too in her life if she didn't make that change too. So, but again, that kind of goes back to like, she was humble enough to realize if I don't make a change, it's game over, you know? Anything else? I mean, you got to be, the person also has to be willing to just do what it takes. Because there's a lot of also like people that think they're ready, but they're actually not. I think there's way more people that think they're ready, but they're actually not, than people that are not ready, if that makes sense, if I said that right.
I kind of like those people, Doc. Like, you know, what's really cool is when you get one of those people and they're like, not maybe ready, you know, like you say, but it's interesting. They don't go away. Like, you know, I think it's cool when they, you know, I have a lot of those folks, even in the CSA, that do the same thing. They'll come in and just, you know, I'm just happy to see them every week. I mean, just the
Absolutely.
fact that they
Yep.
they arrive.
They keep showing
know,
up. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's
they
another
just
good quality.
arrive.
They just keep showing up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
they're brave to just
Yep.
arrive, and I really really love it. And I think that I've never seen anyone who arrives who doesn't grow.
Mhm.
And I think it's like a lot of fun to watch them grow. You know, and some of them, it's amazing. Like they'll hang out for 3 years, and all of a sudden this light bulb goes off, and they just like go, "Oh my God!" Like I didn't realize all these
Yeah.
solutions were right here for all this big long time, and it's so easy. And why didn't I ever do it? And they're just all in all of a sudden.
We're all as human beings stubborn enough to, in certain areas, not stubbornness in a bad way, but it's just like we need to hear certain things enough times before it finally clicks, and
Mhm.
that's okay. And that's why you just keep showing up, like you said. I mean, if it's like, well, I can't wrap my head around this piece, well, then just keep wrestling with it. Like don't just like throw it away then because you can't accept it yet. But it's like if it's important to you, you'll keep wrestling with it, and eventually you'll come to the conclusion, whatever that might be. And then
Sure.
and then when you think you come to the conclusion, then you realize, well, no, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's
So-
true. It's true.
I kind of see this movement, I'll call it a movement, that's happening right now as I actually am encouraged by it. At one point I was frustrated and upset because, it is sort of an attack on animals, on livestock, but yet and
Yeah.
still, I think it's people making a step. It is actually folks saying,
True.
I know something's not right or something's wrong with me, and
Mhm.
even though they may be pointing the finger. I mean, people do it for many different reasons, but
Yep.
right now I think the droves are going, kind of pointing the fingers at this one thing, and they're absolutely right because for the most part, like we said earlier, what conventional meat is very, very, very bad for you, But I think of it as an encouragement, and what you said about the long term, it will come through in the long term. Now, I want everyone to be successful,
Yeah.
but certainly when it comes to nature, you can't just remove one thing and be okay. That
Yeah.
kind of comes through in the long term, and I think that I'm ready to coach. I know you are, Neethi, Valerie, ready to be there when things start to change.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of grim, but yet and still,
Or hopeful. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's grim at all. I
That's
think
true.
that, there's an awakening that's happening, and it needs to happen. And I think that, we've allowed, I said this before too, Doc. We were talking about the fact that the reason the earth is browning is because we have allowed, we think it's like a government problem. Everybody's waiting for some politician to save us or something or change something, when it's actually going to take only ordinary people to make the change. So, and you can call it consumers, you can call it whatever. I mean, everyone has to make a decision. They just have to change their mind and decide that we are not going to participate in this anymore. But we're trying to create the awareness of what's happening. And what's happening is that instead of having like a sovereign government, we have, corporations that are actually running the programs in the government. And it's a conflict of interest issue. And I don't know why no one is saying those words. So I'm hoping that, someone will watch this and realize it, because I want everyone to try to look at who are at the head of the USDA and, all of these governmental oversight organizations. When they realize that it's corporations that are doing it's actually only 2 or 3 corporations, then, they're actually, it's interesting to me that they're able to oversee themselves and profit over the suffering of all the people. We all know this. Anyone who's really paying attention, I mean, that's actually what's happening. But we don't have to participate. What's your suggestion? Because I really, love all the, cool perspectives and talks that you give. You're really, really, really good at that. So, what is your suggestion, or how do you think we can get people to realize this, and and not just look at it because they're trying to lose weight, for example? Like, I feel like that's kind of the small thing, but like a bigger thing, like why isn't anyone else feeling assaulted when the loaf of bread has all these chemicals in the ingredient list, or anything for that matter has this long list? Why isn't anyone going after? Like, we don't need to go after the companies, because I don't need to tell anybody else how to run their business. Okay, but what about the people who are responsible for overseeing them, or overseeing the quality? Even for organic, no one's talking about processes.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. What do you think? I mean, maybe my question was my question.
Yeah. I was like, I'm following you, but I was kind of, actually, you were just spitting out so many good points. I kind of got lost in what you actually were asking me. So simplify it to one question, or one sentence again there.
Well, I want to wake everybody up to kind of, realize this conflict of interest.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, so
maybe that's the question.
Yeah. Well, here's the good thing, is that we live in a day and an age when the earth has shrunk to an enormously small level, in the sense that the ability to get information out is it's at an unprecedented, like, easy level,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the videos that we all see on Facebook that have like 3 million or 300 million views, right? Like, they might have come from like a small third world country in Africa that was just filming that, and then it just gets spread around. So, I think step number one is awareness. You just got to be aware that something needs to change. And then, a lot of it is that it's kind of like what Janae said a few minutes ago, but like, it always makes me think of the analogy of, like, if you're on a plane, the plane's going down, like, you got to put your own dang oxygen mask on first before you assist others, even your loved ones. So I'm like, we all just got to continue to make sure that we have our own oxygen masks on, because we have to lead from the front, in a sense of like how we are living. And, it's almost impossible to give a gift to someone for something that you don't have yourself, meaning like you can't give the gift of health to someone if you don't have that, health yourself. You can't. That's why, like, with doctors and all these things, they're saying, like, well, if they're not healthy themselves, like, how can they give you the gift of health? Like, if they're not a healthy person, like, how are they going to possibly ever make you healthy, right? So, I mean, if these big organizations are just destroying land and just destroying animals and just destroying that whole culture, like, how can our world be a better place through destruction, right?
Sure. Yes.
It can't happen, right? Now, on the other side of that, to use like another analogy, because they are doing that, I mean, there's also beautiful things in nature that, nature always finds a way, right? So like, when there's massive forest fires, that's part of like the cleansing process, and then new life grows up behind it, right? In mythology, there's a phoenix, when it burns down, it's like it's reborn again anew. So I think, I don't know if we're at the point yet where we've kind of reached maximal possible destruction of our earth.
Do we gotta go that far, guys?
Oh,
man, I hope that people will rise before that.
I mean, unfortunately, like, history repeats itself, and I think, like, usually the biggest changes come out of the greatest points of suffering. So I pray to God, I hope it's not that. But we might have already hit that point. Like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely know there are more people awake and more people on this movement, as you said. So maybe that's a sign that we already hit that rock bottom, and it's starting to like
rise,
spring upward again from that. I think that's very possible. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I just I hope it is. And I think more and more people living this way, more and more people being awake, the fact that like the food that's on their shelves is on the grocery store is not quality, not the best. Realizing that what we're doing to our kids is not working. Despite what the experts say. you know, the fact that, you know, how we're taking care of ourselves as society is not working. I think the fact that more and more people are challenging their doctors is a sign that I think the medical system has already hit rock bottom, and it's starting to spring back the other way. The problem though is that they also know they've hit rock bottom, so they're just going harder at us, like with, you know, this flu stuff. It's like on every other, right? So like, you realize less people have gotten the flu shot, so they're going harder at it because it's like they're trying to dig a deeper hole to like dig out of a hole.
Right.
And you know, that can scare people back into their ways, right? But I think it also
scaring them. I mean, I hope they heard you say that.
Yeah.
I hope they heard you say that. So, Doc, we're about, you know, heading into the hour here. So, are there, I mean, what, you know, words of wisdom do you want to leave everyone with at the end of this episode? Anything in particular?
Well, I mean, we've all definitely dropped some wisdom bombs as we go along here for sure. But I mean, I think that it you know, for everybody watching this here, know that, and I say this all the time, but it's still it's worth being said. I mean, your health is literally the greatest asset you have. I don't care how much money you have, how amazing of a material life you might have, or how many numbers you have behind your name on paper or in the bank or whatever. It's like, I mean, Steve Jobs was one of the richest people in the world, and you know, all the money in the world didn't save him. You know, it's not like he needed 10 billion or 20 billion, and that would have, you know, allowed him to live a full long life, right? So, like, your health matters. The health of your family matters. Every decision that you make in the right direction for your health matters, even if it doesn't show and doesn't seem like it right away. It matters, and just don't stop. And I mean, all I can say is, you know, being where I'm at with my health and my life, and my family's life, and just seeing that, like, man, life is good in this space. Like it really is. Like, you know, it's not perfect, but life is really stinking good with, you know, knowing that, you know, my kids are going to be raised healthier than I was. And, you know, they are, I mean, it's already, you know, clear. And I know that because of that, my grandkids are going to be even healthier.
Sure.
Because of the kind of foundation we're laying, you know, right now too. So I think that's cool, is that we, you know, everything you're doing right now for your family's health is creating generational health. You know, who cares about generational wealth? Generational health is where it's at, and that's where the focus needs to be on.
Amen.
Yeah.
Good job.
I do believe that what you're doing, you know, for your family, for the community, you're sowing an awesome seed.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
And it's growing. And so you just keep your joy. I love your optimistic perspective, because I believe that we're going in that direction.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm looking forward to what the future holds. And I think this is something, what we're doing right now. Yeah. And it's definitely something what you're doing. And if it wasn't for what you were doing, I don't think the three of us would be doing what we're doing.
Well, I was doing what I was doing, but I definitely,
the two of us would.
Well, I think that you definitely helped me take the CSA and everything that I'm doing to a completely different level. I mean, absolutely. You know, it's really difficult to find professionals who are willing to accept and understand the power of life-giving force, and you knew it, and that's a big deal. I mean, you know, there were no physicians that were interested in partnering with me to talk about food as medicine, which, I mean, I was always confused about why they wouldn't want to do that. So, you know, I don't know. I mean, not to mention, you know, the health that you help, you know, my family support, for sure. You know, I mean, I'm older than you, so I've been around a little bit longer, and I had to have physicians before you were even ready to heal people. Yeah. But I tell everybody, and I'm going to tell everybody today, right now, who's watching, you know, the thing that I love about you, Doc, is that you get high on healing. And I've said this time and time again. I say it to a lot of people, that, you know, you have this healing touch. And I'm not just meaning like, yeah, you're very powerful in the way that you're educating people, but, and you can't know this, which you pointed out to me one time, and I never thought about it, but you can't adjust yourself, so you don't know that about yourself. But
Right.
I've been with many different chiropractors and, other holistic physicians that I've worked with. And I'm saying that you have a healing touch that you don't even know about. But, anyone who comes to see you, they will experience it and they will know like right away. And thank you so much for everything that you do for my family and also for our community and for supporting the regenerative lifestyle, because you don't have to do that as a physician. It isn't something that many physicians do. Every holistic physician isn't doing that. So I would also even argue that, for the people who are trying to figure out how to find a good holistic physician, well, find out if they're supporting regenerative lifestyle, because they should definitely be promoting, proper diet and you've spoken to me about, with all of our grieving and the loss that I have to overcome. And, health isn't just physical. It isn't just what we put into our body. It's how strong our mind is, what we're thinking about, and you've definitely helped coach me on all of those fronts. And I know that you do it with other people. I've watched you do it. And, that's the thing that's so awesome about working with
we could do a whole episode just on that, couldn't we? Right?
Yes, we
Yes,
can.
sir. Yes,
And
we can.
for me, and I'll finish with this, but like, there's certainly times when we can all go to bed at night after maybe a hard day or a hard conversation and have this like feeling inside of us that we want to be like, you know what, I just can't wait to like tell the world or tell that person like I told you so. But we have to remember to just keep it in perspective and shift it, just to be like, I can't wait until the day when it's just like we can give that person a hug, or like the world sort of collectively a hug, and just be like, hey, it's all good. Aren't you glad that we're here
welcome.
now in this place, right? Instead of like spite, it's just like we're all here ready to just welcome whoever, whenever, with just open arms, with a hug and a loving embrace, and just being just like we're here for it. We're here for you. We're here for you.
Awesome.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate that you joined us, and I hope that we'll be able to have you, that you'll want to come back on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you ladies are doing an awesome thing. I think this is just brilliant what you're doing, and more power to you. And I'll help spread and promote whatever way I can.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Hey friends, we hope that this production has served you in some way today. If you would like to hear more shows like this, please help us grow our army of Minas by visiting our website and making a donation today. We are a 501c3 nonprofit corporation, and I ask that you please like and share this video, follow us on Facebook, become involved with us on Instagram and Twitter, and all of our links can be found in the show notes. Thank you.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.